Welcome to the Media Tastemaker Summit, produced by Taste TV. Today's panel, Why Food Series and Travel Series Are So Hot. This panel discussion features celebrity chef and producer Joanne Weir and host and executive TV series producer Mickela Mallozzi. The panel was moderated by food writer Amy Sherman.
Joanne, you've had so many different shows. Can you tell us a little bit about your most current show?
Sure. So this is called Plates and Places. This has been kind of a dream of mine because, I was always pretty much shooting and filming in the studio, but I love to travel. And so I think Mickela is probably the same as me. And I wanted to pull the two things together. I'm a cooking teacher. And what I wanted to do was, because every May and every October, I spend time around the Mediterranean, bringing groups and people come and spend a week with me cooking. What I wanted to do was start there and film those. And so that's what I've done. And it's really about my love of food and also travel. But I've been lucky enough, my most recent series, we filmed in France, Germany, Austria. I wrote them all down because I wanted to remember Hungary, Spain, Morocco, and Greece, and then the wine country in western part of the United States. So yeah, this is just, it was also modeled kind of after for my most recent book called Kitchen Gypsy, which I can get into later, but it's really about how every single thing I've done has gotten me to where I am right now, and that is food and travel. So anyway, that was kind of the inspiration.
Got it. And Mickela, you have an unusual approach to travel as well. Can you share the story of your show for people who are not as familiar with it?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Amy. I have a show called Bare Feet. It's also on public television. And in every destination, I learn the dance and music from that place. I like to say I make new friends by dancing with strangers. And Joanne, some of the destinations that you featured in this last series, we've been to as well: Morocco, Spain. So it has been a joy for me to be able to combine my two passions of travel and dance. I used to be a dance teacher in New York City, and this is the way I traveled for fun. I would connect with people, and it wasn't necessarily about the dance. It was more about what came out of that dance. So being able to connect with people who I couldn't speak the local language, all of a sudden I'm invited into their home for a meal because we shared this magical moment together, and doors just opened up, literal doors just kept opening up from that. So I thought, man, there's something really special about this. Why don't I make a TV show out of it? And here we are 3 seasons later. And it's been an incredible journey, 10 years of this project. And I just absolutely adore it. So that's Bare Feet, traveling the world through dance and music.
So for people who are curious how these shows end up on television, can you give us a little bit of the backstory of how your show came to be broadcast?
Joanne, or who wants to go first?
Mickela, let's finish with you and then we'll bounce back to Joanne.
Sure. So when I first had the idea for Bare Feet, this was about 10 years ago in 2010. So YouTube wasn't it is what it is now. There were no OTTs, right, over the top platforms. There was no Hulu or Netflix. And so I tried to go the traditional route. I tried to pitch to executives, third-party production companies. And mind you, I had no TV background or production background or hosting background. So I was kind of going in blindly, which was almost a benefit to me because I didn't know what to expect or the rules that I was breaking every just knocking on everyone's door. And no one would give me a chance, rightfully so. And so I started to I decided to invest my own money and film a pilot myself, hired my own friends to be my crew. We stayed in my grandmother's farmhouse in southern Italy when we went to film in my family's hometown. It was something I was familiar with. Fast forward, I was pitching to Travel Channel, pitching to all these networks. And then I was introduced to a local PBS station, a local public television station called NYC Life here in New York City. And they loved the concept. I'm a New Yorker. And so they're like, yeah, we'll air your show for free. Now, as Joanne knows, public television, you have to pay for distribution. A lot of people that come from the television industry don't understand how public television works because it's a complete reversal of roles, right? Usually the network pays you to create your show and you go out and they give you a check and it's wonderful. Public television, all that brought to you in part by is what helps produce the show and distribute the show. And as Joanne knows, you really have to love what you're doing to go into public television. But the benefit of it is we have complete creative control of our programming. And it's unbelievable. No one would give me a chance to make Bare Feet. Everyone thought I was crazy. They said, you're going to have to get a model or hire another host to be the host because you're not going to be the host. And here we are, 4 Emmy Awards later, 2 for Best Host. And it's kind of like you got to listen to your gut. But that process took a really long time. I'm not only the host and executive producer, I'm the fundraiser, I'm my publicist, I'm my marketing person, I'm my social media manager. I write all my own scripts. There are other shows on public television that have other people on board, but the budget really dictates how you can make all this happen. But that's how it worked. I started locally on public television and then decided to take it on national PBS and went through American Public Television. That's a whole other process we could talk about, but it really was being an independent producer, finding your own funding, and the distribution platform through public television is so incredible, such an incredible audience, curious travelers. And Joanne, I'm sure you can agree, it's a wonderful family to be a part of, but it really is, you have to really care about what the TV you're making, for sure.
That's true. Can I just?
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us your story, because you've been involved for many, many, many seasons and many, many different shows. So what was your path to sort of getting on television and making that happen?
Well, in 1994, I wrote my first cookbook called From Tapas to Meze. And, you go around and you go on all those morning shows in New York and you have all these little clips. And so a friend of mine said, let's put these clips together. And then I had also some friends who were 2 women were trying to do, they put a pilot together and they wanted to do a news show and they asked me to come on and do the food segment, the cooking segment. So I did that and that was part of it. And somehow this got circulated at KQED in San Francisco. And I mean, I was really lucky. I saw the tape and I was like, oh my God, she doesn't look like me. I felt like that person I was watching, she really, I hate to say this because I sound like, I'm bragging, but I said, she really has it for television. She should have a cooking show. And so anyway, 3 producers got in touch and said, we'd love to, produce your show. We'd love you to work with KQED. And so I chose one of them. Oh, but I should also tell you that when my first book came out, I went on the Food Network a few times. And this was the Food Network when it was such a different Food Network then. But anyway, they called me into their office. They said that the CEO wanted to talk to me and he said, we'd love to, offer you a show. And I said, there I was standing in New York and I looked out the windows and it was like, I was looking at the Empire State Building and, it was New York, right? I live in San Francisco. And they said, we'd love to have, offer you a show. And I said, let me think about that. And I went back and I thought, really my role models, I had worked at Chez Panisse, and my role models were people like on television were Jacques and Julia. And I thought, that's where I want to be. I really want to teach people something. And so I just held out and we put together a pilot. I worked with Linda Brandt. I chose Linda Brandt. There were 3 people and Linda was really perfect. I loved her style. She just had done some beautiful shows. And so we worked together, we put together a pilot. And like Mickela said, yes, we raised the money to do that. I think Linda actually put the money up to do that pilot. And we were really lucky. It was early days. There weren't so many cooking shows. So yes, I have been on 20 years. It's actually 21 years. And that's a really long cycle on public television. It's pretty extraordinary that I've been on that long. And I have done, I think this is like my 13th season, 14th. Wow. I've kind of lost count. And, but it's the place I want to be. I really do love public television as well. As I said, I'm a teacher and it's really important to me that I teach people something. And by the way, Mickela, I watched your show on Turkey and it's a really beautiful show. I think you do a great. I love your passion for what you do. So anyway, and it's a pleasure to be on with you. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, you're a legend. Girl, you're a legend. This is amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And Mickela, if you want to share the link to any of your episodes, feel free to put those in the chat for our attendees.
Yeah.
So Joanne, as a teacher, I'm gonna bounce off of that question. What advice would you give to someone who wants to produce a television show after all the experiences you've been through? Obviously, it's different today than it was in '94, but what would you, Joanne, what would you say, what advice would you give to someone who says, I think I have a really great idea for a show?
Well, I think Mickela already started talking about this. I mean, you really have to have a passion for this. First of all, you have to raise the money. I mean, and it's so true. People think seriously because we have cooking shows or a cooking show or a show on television that we are making millions of dollars. I am sorry, it's not about that. First of all, my background is fine arts. And for me, it's really a very artistic, way that I can, artistic way to convey the artistic side of me. You have to have a passion because seriously, like in terms of raising money, it's a full-time job. And just like Mickela, I am the executive producer. I mean, yes, I have a team. I have a producer and a director, and I have people, camera people, and I have sound people, and when we work in the studio, we have 20 people, but all those people need to be paid. And where does that money come from? It's from the money that I raise. And if it costs more than what we expected, where does that come from? I think you have to really want to do it, and you have to know that it's a commitment, because it's not just being on camera. It's so much more than that. And you have to love it. You have to love it. And you have to love the subject that you're talking about. And I just feel lucky that I have been able to do that. I hope
100%. No, 100%, Joanne. I think that's it. Especially, Amy, especially with public television, I think it's a unique approach because it gives, like I said before, it gives you that access to create the show that you want to, but it also, the burden of financing and making it happen falls on you as well. So there is that balance of right brain and left brain, right? The artistic side and the business side too. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to Joanne a little while ago. She always has a million things that she's doing in addition to the television show. You might think that that's all she does, but it's never all she does. Mickela, tell us a little bit about what else you do in addition to the show and how the show complements your other activities.
Yeah, so Bare Feet, our mission has always been to connect with people through dance and music around the world. And so like Joanne said, that she's bringing travelers pre-COVID to these places. We do the same thing. We have Bare Feet tours. We've partnered with AAA Travel. And so we bring people to destinations based on episodes that we've done. Some of the destinations we've been to, we've learned tango in Buenos Aires. We've been to Bali, Indonesia. Our upcoming tour that we are announcing, we're pushing a little further because of COVID, but is Ireland. We're going to be doing Irish step dance and sean-nós and all this wonderful. If anyone's been to Ireland, you know how much music and dance is so ingrained into the culture, plus the food, right, Joanne? It's just amazing, amazing food that people don't even think about when they think of Ireland. So that's one part of it. Another, it is speaking engagements, public speaking. I do live events, again, pre-COVID. A lot of them have moved virtually, but I was hosting live dance events. The whole purpose of Bare Feet is to inspire people to connect with people through dance, to travel more authentically. And I partnered with the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership and the New York City Parks Department to do live free events last summer. We did an incredible Bare Feet series where we brought a different style of dance from a different part of the world to downtown Brooklyn, and we had thousands of people dancing every single week. We did Italian pizzica, we did Haitian folk dance. So we do live events. You know, I love bringing people together. That is just what brings me the most joy. So right now it's been really difficult, like personally, just to not be able to dance with people and hug them and touch them. But from that, I've also realized we can replicate. I'm in a unique position as a traveler, professional traveler, that my content isn't about giving people best travel tips, or where's the best hotel to go to, or what's the best spa. Our content is really about the culture. Our show has always been about the culture. So since COVID has hit, we've had to put our next production on hold. And I thought, how can we continue to create that mission and keep it alive? So we've started Bare Feet Live weekly live sessions, which I just got off of. That's why I was running onto this live. Every Tuesday on Facebook Live and every Thursday on Instagram Live, I connect with a dancer from a different part of the world, and they teach us, we interview them, and it's replicating that idea of bare feet of, here we are, I'm going to be learning. I'm a perpetual student of learning this dance and music, and we bring our viewers on this journey and they can interact with us in their learning. So today we just did Ori Tahiti, which is Tahitian dance. Last week we did Lebanese dabki. Next week we're going to be dancing with the principal dancer from Martha Graham. And all of this is accessible, and you have to pivot, right? We're not going to stop our mission. It's how can we replicate this idea of what bare feet is and bring it on the technology platforms that we have right now. I mean, we're able to do this talk right now. I think that's incredible. What I also do, because I am so ingrained in the production side and as an independent producer for public television, since COVID hit, I also started the Independent Producers Association of Public Television. Joanne, if you want to check that out too, it's ipapublicmedia.com. It is a one-stop shop as a resource, and I'll put that in the chat too. One-stop shop for people who are interested in potentially bringing their show to public television. Joanne, I'm sure you know this. We're on an island. Each independent producer is kind of figuring it out on their own. There's no platform to say, these are the exact rules. These are all the presenting stations you should use. And I thought, why don't we have that? Why don't we make it? So I did. And we hold virtual meetups once a month. We have weekly webinars about once a week. And yesterday we just had a webinar about fiscal sponsorship, about how you can have funding for your show. And all of these resources are for free. So if you are considering producing, hosting, distributing your show on public television, this is a wonderful resource that's all user generated and it's accessible. We want people, look, public television television needs more diversity, needs more voices, needs people to figure out how they can tell their stories on public television, because it seems like it's an impossible feat, but it's not. If you really figure out how to get your story out, it's doable. It's not easy, but it's doable. So I'll put that link in the chat, but it's the Independent Producers of Public Television.
Great.
Yeah.
Joanne, tell us about some of just a few of the things that complement what you do with the television program. You also do tours, which I imagine are on hold now due to COVID, but tell us about some of the other things that you do.
Right. Yes. The tours are one of the things that I love. That's actually ties back into television, because when 2 years, well, it's a year and a half ago, I was going to, I was setting up to, wait a minute, what year is this? I'm trying to, so weird, but I've kind of had to put my trips on hold for 2 years, which will probably be, fall of next year is how I see it at this point. I'm not sure, but what I've done, and the reason that I was inspired to do this was during those tours that I do, I love those because I learn so much during them, and I love to share that with people. I love to take them along on my journey. I love the discovery of the trips. So that was really the impetus for my TV show. Now that those are on hold for a while, I'm lucky enough to have other things that are going on. And like you, I do a ton of live events, which are great. And the thing that I love about those is just keeping my followers engaged. I love the engagement myself. I have to tell you that every single time I do one, I get kind of emotional at the end, because it's so nice to see the people in those names that I know, people that follow me, people that have come on trips. So I've been doing a lot of live events. And no, I don't charge for them. Because I feel like I still want to be there with people, and I don't know if it's a gift for me or a gift to them. But then also, right now I'm a chef ambassador for 3, they're called Icons of European Taste. It's prosciutto di Parma, prosciutto San Daniele, and also Grana Padano, 3 incredible products. Mm-hmm. But that really came about, which is interesting because They were originally legends from Europe, and they were a sponsor for my show and an anchor sponsor, one of my largest sponsors, and or the largest. And I worked with them for 6 years. Now I'm working with Icons and doing much more social media, and also, you know, recipe development. We're doing, so I'm doing some Instagram Live for them. So this is a 17-month project. So that's a pretty big project for me. And besides that, I'm learning Italian. And no, I've been studying Italian, exactly. But it's because I work in Italy so much. I think because I work also in Spain and in France. French, I know so pretty well. So I have to learn Italian because of being there a lot, but also my Spanish friends are never going to forgive me because I told them it was going to be Spanish. So I've been spending time learning Italian too. What else have I've just been really busy. We're launching a new website. We've been working on it for a year, and incredible website. And yeah, just I've been busy. I don't understand it. I don't know how I stay so busy, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything, and it's killing me not to be on the road. It really does. I can't. I mean, the thought of me being here, if I don't get to travel till fall of next year, it's painful for me, seriously. But anyway, I'm hoping. I have 5 weeks planned in May. I think it's optimistic, but I'll definitely be back there in the fall of 2021. Hey, what about you, Mickela? When are you thinking that you would film again, or when would you be traveling?
Yeah, so we were lucky. Yeah, so we were lucky that we shot Carnival in the Guadalupe Islands pre-COVID. So we have 2 episodes coming out in February in time for Carnival season and Black History Month, which I feel very, very lucky because we were supposed to start filming again in May. But unfortunately, we're just waiting till things become safe. Our Bare Feet tour, we're aiming for October of 2021 to run. Yeah. And that's also the mindset of the traveler of feeling safe enough. But our show in particular, you know, even if travel opens up, the thing about our show is we like to feature holidays and festivals and people dancing and touching and big groups of people getting together. So even if travel does open, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can specifically film our content. So I've come to terms with that very quickly and have moved on from that in the sense of, all right, there's nothing I can do about that. Right. And what can I do? What can I control? And that's where the live series comes in. That's where we're putting together these Bare Feet tours. That's where, all right, we have footage that was supposed to only just be 1 episode, and we have enough beautiful footage to make 2 episodes. Right. And we're going to put that out and continue with that and just take it one day at a time, because who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, if we can travel by next fall, I feel like that's very lucky. I feel like we'll be very lucky. And then until then, you know.
Yeah. I wanted to say something. We were really, really lucky with filming because we filmed 26 shows that we filmed last year, and we filmed both in the studio because mine is both studio and it's also on location. Mm-hmm. And we filmed everything last year. And so we launched in 2019, we launched 13 of the shows. And then, I'm sorry, 2020, we launched 13, and it's because Plates and Places is 4 different years. And then we have another 13 that we're in edits right now. So we get to January, and all the fundraising was done. So I can't even tell you, January, because from sponsors, the money was amortized over 2 years. So I was very lucky that all of it came in January, and now we're in edits. And so those shows will begin, and they will go, because my shows air for 2 years, and then usually there's a re-release. My shows usually go for 5 years. So I figure I've got enough right now that it will go for a while. So, and then they're also airing still previous seasons. So that's really good too.
That's fantastic. And Amy, I'll like to add too, you know, and I'm sure Joanne, you've seen this in your airings, PBS viewership. I know people think public television is or was antiquated, but PBS viewership has gone up 20% since COVID hit. Yeah, and I think people are now really valuing PBS because of their kids being home for educational purposes. I know I've gotten The New York City public school system reached out to me and said, can you help us? Our students are home, our teachers are home right when COVID hit. So I know teachers are using our programming, kids, families, parents. I know Samantha Brown, she has a show called Places to Love on PBS, and she created study guides that she's putting out for free so that teachers and parents can use them for their kids. So the point of public television is, as Joanne said, educational and informational, as well as entertaining, but there is that educational component. And that's where I think our content is evergreen, our content is going to last, and it really impacts people in a way that, let's say, other television doesn't. I'll just be nice about that. And I feel very proud about my work, and I know that it truly stands the test of time. And as Joanne said, her show airs for 2 years and then re-airs again. Same with ours. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. Your show doesn't just air one season as it would on, let's say, network or cable sometimes, and then it's done. And then you don't own it and you can't touch it. We own our shows so that not only does it air on public television, my shows are on Amazon Prime Video. They air internationally. We license them for in-flight programming when airlines are running, in cruise ships when cruise ships are running. So there, you have a lot more power over your content on public television, and you can still have it on OTTs and over the top and digital distribution and other licensing opportunities. So it's not limited. And again, you have creative control. That I think is the most important, is to have control over your content and to own your content.
Right. Speaking of creative, I was just thinking, I didn't even mention this, that I'm also on Create, which is a 24-hour DIY station, which is affiliated with public television, which is excellent because for example, they aired my show starting on a Friday evening, the new series, and it went all the way through till Saturday. So the viewership is extraordinary. We also it's interesting with public television because what you do is you have this, new series and you put together a sizzle reel, and so you send it out to all of the stations and people say yes and they say no, whether they're going to take, or maybe if they're going to take your show or not. And this time it was incredible the amount of yeses that came back. And I know it's because yes, people are home, but it is true about really, I think people really have tuned in to public television at this point. And I think the programming, whether it's cooking or a dance and travel show, whatever it is, I think that people are really interested in public television right now. And it was seeing that there was 6 pages of yeses.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, it used to be that, you'd maybe get half or something. This was like 90%, which was just extraordinary. So it just made me so happy. And I was like, yes, we are doing this and it's working. And so anyway, yeah.
I think also for anyone who's on this, listening to this, public television, PBS, it's not just if you're in the PBS system, everyone airs you. Each individual public television station locally decides their programming, when they want to air your show, how they want to air your show. So whether, Joanne's show might be on Thursday nights on KQED in San Francisco, but maybe Monday nights in New York City and Saturday mornings in San Antonio. So it really is this puzzle piece, and they might start airing your show immediately, right, Joanne? And then another station might air it a month later. So it's never like tune in at this time, except when we're on Create. When we're on Create, it's a national airing and it's wonderful, but there's a lot of moving parts. And this is why I started the IPA. This is why I started the Independent Producers Association, because to explain that and to really understand that, and as a support system for independent producers, it's a lot. It's a lot to figure out on your own.
And I think also, thank God for DVR. So
Really,
I can't tell you, so many people, that's what they do. And we're so lucky, because it is true that it's hard to figure out. It's hard for me sometimes to figure out when I'm on, even in San Francisco. But maybe we're lucky. I always look for the silver linings, right? So the silver lining for COVID is more public television, and also that they're definitely watching our travel shows, because they are dying to travel.
Yeah, and cooking. Everyone's cooking now too, so they want recipes. Yeah. They want recipes.
Believe me, they do. Believe me.
Well, Joanne, you were just, actually answering my next question, which is, we all know about the challenges of COVID-19, but what opportunities have you found? And one thing I've noticed is COVID-19 is seems to have accelerated a lot of things that were already happening. So I know, for example, I've talked to wineries that said, we were planning to do virtual tastings, we just hadn't gotten around to it. And with COVID-19, we went full speed ahead. So what are some of the things that you have been sort of planning to do that maybe got accelerated or got a little bit of a jump start? What have been some of the silver linings, as you say, for COVID-19, some of the unexpected but maybe positive things?
I'm thinking here.
More viewership. It sounds like that's
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. What I think really just engaging. That is the word I've been using so much. I think Instagram Live. I've worked so hard on Instagram and Facebook, and just keeping my following engaged, and definitely building my audience. And I have so many people that I'm doing Instagram Live. There are people on there that honestly, I feel like they're my friends now. And I keep seeing these names, and they write to me, and now they're writing to me, writing emails. And, but I think really keeping people engaged, and that seems really important. That is very important to me right now. And I don't know if I maybe answered before. I think I have to think about that.
Okay, well, you think about it, and I'm going to jump back to Mickela, because it sounds like you've got some different kinds of opportunities going that came up specifically because of COVID-19. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Tell us about what you're doing with the schools.
Yeah, so, well, like with COVID-19, the IPA, so I started that Independent Producers Association, which I'd wanted to do for a couple of years and never had time, because we're hosting and executive producing and creating a show. So this gave me an opportunity to really, I love to give as much of my time as I can to other producers that I see are as passionate as I am. So I really wanted to give them a resource. For the schools, what's wonderful is I get to connect with students through our show, but then also to speak with students. And now that everything is virtual, usually I'd have to hop on a plane and go all over the place. And for some of these communities that don't have budgets to fly you and keep you up, put you up at night in a hotel, this is a wonderful opportunity to stay connected. Because as Joanne said, people think just because we have a TV show that we're rolling in money, and that is not true at all. We are investing a lot of our own funding into making these series. But what I've seen too, again, the Bare Feet Lives, just like Joanne, it's engagement. I don't want to, I need, and I think Joanne feels the same way, I need that interaction just as much as they do. And I feel like keeping dance in my life in a time where we are isolated is gonna keep me sane and keep my mental health in check. And I've seen the numbers of engagement of people growing exponentially because they feel the same way. I have messages from people that's not just, this is so much fun, it's, you're giving me hope in the world. I mean, who would think of that message getting that from a TV show, right? A travel show, is that people feel like there's hope in the world. People feel like they need that positivity in a time when there's constant negativity from all ends of the media, within the family. I mean, the hardships that so many people are going through right now, I feel very lucky that everyone is relatively healthy in my family. So, there's so many terrible things happening, but we need to, I feel it's almost my responsibility to continue that positive reinforcement for my own sanity. I don't think people realize how much it helps me as they are telling me that it helps them. So we all are trying to figure it out. Every day there's a glitch in some sort of technology that you just have to roll with the punches. And I think from filming an international travel series where there is lost in translation every single minute of filming, it has prepared me for moments when things just poop out and you just got to keep going, So I try to lead by example in the sense that, look, it's not perfect. We are dancing in these little rooms. We're dancing in a little screen, but at least we're dancing, right? At least we're staying connected. And that's the opportunity. Working with the school system, it's being able to know that our show is impacting kids. I'm getting messages from fans where their kids watch the show. This is what I love so much. They made costumes from things that they found in their house based on the costumes that I was wearing. And so not only are these kids learning about Turkey, for example, I was belly dancing, learning about Turkey, learning the dances of Turkey, they're belly dancing, but then they start finding pieces of costume and pieces of cardboard and making these wonderful pieces. So then it's an interactive event that they can do with their parents of like, they're learning together. I think people are spending more time together. And so it's just every day, it's sort of this malleable way of, this is a TV show, but there's more than just the TV show, right? It's the mission of how do we keep this alive? Because at some point I want to continue filming the show.
We would.
Yeah. Yes. So it's really, it doesn't just stop because we can't film. There's so much more that we can do to keep the momentum going and keep us, let's be honest, to keep us top of mind, right, Joanne? You don't want to just disappear.
I wanted to just throw something in there, which I forgot to say, is I've been cooking. So I have to say it only because seriously, I have been so busy in the past that I didn't even think I would just run into the kitchen like 5 minutes before Joe came home and I would throw something together. I have been enjoying cooking, but not only just like, okay, I'm going to make, the same things that I made before. I've been really nostalgic, and of all sides of my family, I only have two, but my father's side, my grandparents were from Lithuania. Well, my recent one was making the farmer's cheese that my grandmother used to make and rolled cabbage leaves. Now, I have to tell you, rolled cabbage leaves, I put them into a baking dish, and I didn't even have the sauce on them. I took a photo of them. They weren't even cooked yet. And I posted it on Instagram and probably got like the most likes I've ever gotten, and everybody could relate to rolled cabbage leaves, which kind of amazed me. I mean, making things like garganielli, I've been just taking the time to cook the stuff that I've learned along the way, whether it's in Spain or Italy or Morocco. I spent a lot of time in Morocco, showing everybody how to make a tagine on Instagram Live, which has been so fun because people had no clue that you could, whatever you have in your refrigerator, you can make a tagine, which is, a Moroccan stew. Also making paella, showing people how to make a paella on your own stove, that you can just use a pan and you don't have to have, the big old pan. Sorry, you can't see my arms, but you can make it for two people, and how easy it is. And then it takes 15 minutes. So I've been cooking a lot, and I've been really, really loving that, and doing things that I just like. The rolled cabbage leaves were just something that was on my list. I made her sauerkraut in the past, like made it from scratch with the cabbage, but I've been wanting to make those cabbage leaves, and I'll tell you, I'm craving them again. So cooking has been my thing, but I mean, really loving it. And there was one other thing I wanted to say, but you inspired, but I forgot to write it down, so my brain is just not thinking.
Anything else any other sort of silver linings of COVID-19, of things that you have? Obviously, you've talked about the website that's progressing. Right. Other plans or things that you're doing?
I should tell you this. This is one thing I neglected to tell you that is really on my mind, and we've been working a lot on, is I only had 12 shows done. It's a long story, and you know how television is. So out of this series that we're launching in January, I had 12 shows and I needed 13. And so we're working on the 13th show. Try to film during COVID is really going to be a very interesting thing. So it's been Karen, who is my assistant, and I have been working really hard on this. We have some incredible ideas, working with a great producer, and so we're working on the 13th show. And I'm very excited about it. It's very different than anything I've done before. And so, yes, you heard it here. I haven't told anybody that. So anyway, we are going to finish it by the end of the year.
Wow. So there's been a lot of discussion about travel, and there were discussions about travel and its sustainability and its impacts even before COVID-19. And now the discussions of regenerative travel and the democratization of travel and places that are overexposed and colonialism and cultural appropriation. There's so many issues that have been raised recently about travel. On one hand, we have more people having access to travel. On the other hand, there are some negative things that happen when too many people travel. And there's a big question as to what travel is going to look like post-COVID, right? Are the flights, the inexpensive flights to anywhere going to still exist? What is travel going to look like? My thought is that travel programming is going to take on even more importance for people as actual travel options become a little bit more challenging, as they are now, but as they will be in the future. What are your thoughts about kind of travel in a post-COVID era and the role of what travel TV is really going to mean for people in the future? Who wants to go first?
I'll start with this. I think, what was happening in the travel industry, I attend the New York Times travel show every year, and I speak at that travel conference. It's a travel expo, one of the largest travel conferences in the United States every year. And it had a record number of people attending. I think it was 40,000 people at the Javits Center, New York City. That was literally the pinnacle of this moment that was sort of the overextension of travel, over tourism, the abundance of marketing for influencers, travel influencers. And I think it was hitting that bubble of what was eventually supposed to happen, where we needed a reset, right? And I think now, because especially us as Americans, we've been taken away that privilege. Our passport was one of the most accessible passports in the world, and now we're the most limited passports in the world. And to be going through that process of now we cannot go anywhere, we are grounded, we are not entering countries because of our status, because of this pandemic. I think it's reminding people that maybe I don't want to travel just to take that Instagram photo, because that's what was happening, is people were getting in line to get that one photo and leaving. I think people want to travel with more purpose. People want to travel in smaller groups for safety, right? You're going to see less of these massive coach buses of 50 to 100 people traveling together. It's going to be small group. It's going to be more authentic experience. It's going to be more localized. People are now more aware of climate change and the impact that travel has had on climate change. And economies, they want their monies to go into local economies versus giant corporations. So if you're going to, I don't know, let's say a small island and you're staying at a chain hotel, that money's not staying in that island. It's going back to the headquarters of that chain hotel. So I think people, because we have been taken away that privilege of this travel, people are going to be more conscious of travel. And with content, you can see it. You can see already, I don't know if you guys know Somebody Feed Phil, right, on Netflix, Phil Rosenthal's show. It's this heartwarming way of approaching travel. Same thing with Samantha Brown's Places to Love. She highlights these secondary cities that are not Rome and Paris. It might be Bologna, or it might be Lafayette in Louisiana versus just New Orleans. It's really sort of taking the back seat of where are the places that not everybody's going to. And realizing now too, that because we can't travel, why not explore our own backyard? You don't have to go to the other side of the world to get this life-changing experience. It's the road tripping, it's the neighborhood travel, it's supporting your local businesses. We are seeing so many small businesses being decimated. People are realizing, wow, maybe I should really support these small businesses that are just around the corner from us. So that's going to reflect in the travel content. We're seeing that less celebrity driven already since COVID hit. People don't want to hear from huge celebrities about how they are dealing with COVID because they have these private waterfalls in their backyard. Who has a private waterfall in their backyard to zen out during COVID? Not me, not a lot of people. And I think if you see in content travel that is more accessible, that is more diverse. So I know, especially in the travel sphere for content creators, you have people with disabilities, people of color, more women, their voices, the LGBTQ community, versus ageism, but also weight. Either, there are people of various size, colors, shapes, creeds, everything that are starting to become part of the forefront of travel content and storytelling because their voices need to be heard because those people are also traveling. There's been a big disconnect in the people who are being represented on screen, whether that's on your phone or on TV, and the people that are actually wanting to travel. But again, it all goes back to, I want to travel with more to have a memorable experience now, because now that I can't travel, the first thing I want to do is travel, right? So I think it's going to be more driven by authentic, local, impactful experiences. But the economy, I think, is going to drive if people can actually travel again. I know this is like a circular conversation, but.
No, I think that, for me, I've been doing these trips for 20 years also, which is interesting. I started them around the same time that I started doing television. And one thing that I see, first of all, I do agree that it's going to be smaller groups. And I feel like what we do is great compared to, yes, the big tour buses. To have 15 people in a kitchen is very different than, things that you're reading in the travel books. Because I've done them for so long, the things that we have and the access that we have, I'm saying you and I, Mickela, is that, we have relationships with people. So they're getting to see things that they've never seen before or never experienced. And they're, for example, my husband always describes it this way. I was on the island of Sardinia, and we were invited to have lunch at what would be the Mondavis, and you ate with the Mondavis, and I can't remember their name, which is interesting because of course he can. And, but I think it's really, the trips that people are the most interested in for me are the ones that are a little bit different. Like, yes, they want to go to Tuscany, and those are people that probably haven't traveled quite as much, but people really want to spend time with me in Sicily. It's something that's been on their list. They want to go to Morocco. I mean, everybody wants to go to Morocco. The more interesting the location, like I just have a new location that is on the island of Majorca. I mean, I'm excited to be in Majorca. And when I offer those trips, it's incredible how quickly, like we'll fill 2 or 3. And but I agree. And I also think the other thing is, Alma Waterways is one of my sponsors for my show, and I absolutely love them, and I've traveled with them a lot. And I think that river ships are going to do well compared to those cruise ships that have thousands of, people on their ships. I get emails from people all the time now saying, I cannot wait to travel. I can't wait. And, I want to please keep, yesterday there was this woman, she probably wrote to me 5 times, and every time she finished it, she said, keep me posted. Keep me posted on when you're going to tell about your new trips, which is great for me. But anyway, I think the great thing is that people love food and they always will want to cook. And for me, the other thing is that my classes are hands-on. People get to actually do the cooking. They don't just watch someone else in a location speaking a different language, teaching them how to cook with a translator. Instead, they actually get to work with the materials with their hands, and they love that. The other thing that came to mind when you were talking was that I've done so many events where I've said to people, who would like to, come on a week-long trip and spend a week in a villa in Italy or in Spain or in Morocco? And I am serious. I would say 80% of the hands go up in the air. I believe that people will be back there. There is no doubt in my mind. I mean, when I had to cancel 5 trips for this year, 5 week-long tours, I should say. And that was like 85 or 90 people. And I didn't cancel, I moved them. And of all those people, only 8 people said, no, I'm not going. Everybody is still in for next year.
Wow.
And I have trips that are planned in May. All of those are in May. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I might have to move them again, but these people are committed. And, they love to travel. I mean, I have that. And Mickela has it. And I know you have it too, Amy. We all do. But, I think we'll all be back there. Maybe that's the optimistic me. I mean, I know I'm constantly optimistic, but I really believe we'll be back there. There's no doubt in my mind we will be back there. I don't think we're going to be wearing masks forever. Yeah. I think that we will, you'll be dancing again, and I will be cooking in the kitchen, and I will be very happy with a big smile on my face.
100%.
Well, we certainly won't be taking travel for granted the way we did. And
exactly.
I think, speaking to both of you, I think the idea of smaller and more interactive and more meaningful travel, that maybe it isn't about, seeing everything and checking everything off of your list, but those deeper dives that create more meaning. I've often thought that really the benefit of travel is the connections you make with people. So
Right.
the skills, all of those things, you remember those people. You remember the people that you met, the people you saw. You look back at your photos, and sometimes the photos with the people in it are really the ones that grab you more than the scenery, because they tell so many stories, right? When you see the pictures of the people, and as social people, we're all suffering during this time of social isolation. What role do your programs play at this time? Do you feel that they've taken on sort of a different role given the fact that people really aren't traveling? So it isn't so much, an old school travel show, which neither of yours are really about where to go, right? They're the service journey, eat here, go here, see this, do that, stay here. Your shows are not like that. People may pick up some of those service tips, but that's not really the point of the way you approach travel. So what do you see as the role during the pandemic when people really aren't traveling? What is the role of your shows? Mickela, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just from the feedback that I've gotten from my fans and the shift in the messaging from pre-COVID to post-COVID is, like I said before, people, when they can't travel, they feel like it's a bit of escapism, right? When they can't go anywhere, they can't get on a plane, they can't go anywhere outside of the United States, they feel like they can travel for a little half hour to somewhere else in the world. And what's wonderful is now they are planning trips because of the episodes that they've seen from our show. I never thought about going to Uzbekistan, now I want to go to the Caucasus. I've never even thought about going to Ireland, and now I want to go to Ireland. And so that's been wonderful to see the shift in people using it as a form of escapism. What's also wonderful is we did a whole season, Bare Feet in NYC, which is traveling the world within the 5 boroughs of New York City. And I'm particularly proud of that because it's where I live. I'm an adopted New Yorker. And especially with everything that's going on and what New York has been going through, it is almost this sort of time capsule of New York City and highlighting its diversity and the beauty of the city. And I think, especially New Yorkers, that show airs every single week on NYC Life. And I think it's really a beautiful memory of where we will get back to, for New Yorkers specifically, of like, we will persevere through this. There will be a time when we get through this. But I think also our show is being used, like I said before, for educational purposes, which I, again, never imagined. I never imagined that teachers were going to be using this in their curriculum. I never imagined that university professors were going to be using this in their curriculum. And for me, that's just an honor to be able to say that our content really holds water, because if you're using it outside of a travel genre, right? It's an educational genre. It's people learning about the dance, learning about the culture. That's a huge plus that I just never considered would even happen. And it's wonderful to see that. But to hear the positive impact that it's had on people, and cross-generational too. I don't know about you, Joanne, but I have families that watch the show together, grandparents with their kids and their grandkids. I'm sure they're watching your show and cooking together. That's an interactive experience. And that to me is so important right now. It's wonderful. It really, we're at a time where, as a producer, you're really looking, okay, how can we keep this sustainable and make it work financially, right? Because once our show is out there, the funding doesn't keep coming. But it's thinking, okay, there's purpose to this, right? Even though we're in this pause, I see the impact, the positive impact that it has on our viewers and of people in general. So that helps drive me to keep this going. It's not an easy journey to follow with public television. And I'll keep reiterating that because I want people to really understand that. But at the same time, when you get messages from fans where I cry all the time, Joanne, like I cry when I get emails, I cry when people stop me on the street and tell me how much it's touched them. I'm always crying.
No, that is the best, when people stop you and say how they love you. Oh my, it's so incredible, really.
Yeah.
Or like, you're my favorite. It's just like, it's the most wonderful thing. It truly is. And I never take that for granted. Never, ever once. I wanted to just say something that I just sent out and I'm sorry, I was looking away because I wanted to just tell you what I just sent out an email newsletter on Tuesday, and I always have to think, like, what day is it? But I was really talking about what travel is and what travel is for me, and it was really about, and this is going to be in the past tense, but it was about a trip that I took, my very first trip to Finland, and because I think that travel is so much more, like you said, Amy, it's about the people. And I just want to read you this. So what I said was, oh gee, I tried to do it as best I could, but it made me think of how traveling is more than just a flight. It's more than just museum visits. It's more than restaurant dinners and photos of food. Like you said, Mickela, about Instagram photos. Traveling leads me to new and lasting friendships. Traveling teaches me a lot about myself. Traveling teaches me to be more spontaneous. It brings new challenges. It brings new discoveries, which for me is so important. It makes the world a much bigger place. Some people say smaller place, but I say bigger place because I want to keep going and travel everywhere. It slows me down and makes me relax, and it makes me take the world in. Travel has made me look at my life with a fresh perspective. Travel's created memories for a lifetime, and it frees my soul. And that's really how I feel about travel. As much as I love food, I really do love travel. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful.
And I think, Joanne, I'll just give you my little fan letter, but I think your shows do a lot of that. I think your shows give those experiences to people, even if they're not traveling. All of the things that you talk about are communicated through your shows beautifully, because you do focus on the people and the experiences and really creating memories for people, things that hopefully will stand out for them, even though they weren't there in person. So we do have one question for the panelists coming from Taste TV about the future. And I know this is so difficult in the midst of a pandemic when planning day to day is sometimes more than anyone can handle. But do you have any thoughts about where you see yourself and where you see the type of television programs that you're involved with, how you see them in the future? And they're saying 5 years out, but as far as you can project, do you have any thoughts about, where you want your shows to go in the future? Either literally going or, places that you want to go, or just in general of again, I think both of you have evolved a lot over the years. Your approach has evolved and what you do has evolved. So, it's easier to look back than it is to look forward. But if you look forward a little bit, any predictions or thoughts, or even just hopes and dreams?
I've been working on that a lot. So I'm going to jump in here because that was the first time Mickela and I were quiet. I mean,
well, I figured I'd let you go first. I'd let you go first on this one.
No, I feel like I think a lot about my show, and thank you so much for what you said, Amy. It's really nice that because it is true. I try so hard to share that. I want to take people vicariously with me. I want them to feel the feelings I have. I want them to have the same kinds of discoveries, and I want them to look at their world, because it can be right, outside your door. Things that are interesting and things that we don't see. So I think for me, my show has been always, I'm the teacher, and I love that. But I actually think that people don't really know me on my show. And I really want to work and I am working really hard on that for this last show. And I don't mean to say last, because I don't know if it's the last show I'll ever do, but and you never know.
The latest show.
Exactly.
There we go.
But yes, but I really want it to be more personal. And I feel like I've spent so much time at the stove, like cooking and, getting the point across on how to make a dish. And I believe that what people want to see now is a little bit more of us. And though maybe other people see it differently, maybe they do think that they know me, but I want them to really know me. And I the real me. I meet so many people that see me and they'll say, oh my God, you're so much more animated than you are on television. I think I'm really animated on television. And you talk so much and you're so excited, but I don't see that on your show. I want people to see who I am. So I really want people to see my environment. I want to share with them. I want to share that with them. Yes, I've shared with them my travels. I've shared with them, how to cook. I've taught so many people in the world how to cook, which is wonderful for me, but I really want them to know me. That's what I want. So.
I look forward to seeing that, Joanne. I look forward to seeing all
No,
of it.
now I really set this up, haven't I?
Yeah,
But
right. No,
I'm
that's
really
wonderful. That's wonderful. So I see, I kind of grapple with this all the time. What's amazing is having started my own show, again, that no one would give a chance to me to begin with, is now I know how to make a good award-winning television series. I feel comfortable in my own skin to be able to be the executive producer and put my foot down and say, this is what Bare Feet is. And I'm not going to waver on the message of it and how we do the show. However, I do see the future of digital distribution, right? So I'm already working with Condé Nast Traveler and Condé Nast Entertainment to create a branded hosted series with them through Bare Feet. We were actually working with sponsors, ready to launch a digital series this year, and obviously that's all been put on hold. But I do see that as the future as well. And I see that hand in hand. It's not either one or the other. And that's where I feel like I have really established myself, because I have proof of concept of the show through PBS. I have built my brand. I'm known as that person who travels and dances around the world. And there's no way that you can sort of push me from that branding. I think it's very strong, and I stick with it because that is my voice. And I can go into a meeting with Condé Nast and with a sponsor and say, all right, we're going to tell a story, but we're going to tell it through my lens of storytelling. And they trust me because they see that I can do that. So I feel very empowered as a woman. I feel empowered as a storyteller. I feel empowered as a producer, that I want to bring these stories to more digital distribution. I want to continue on public television as long as I can. Again, to make it sustainable, because public television, to find this funding, unfortunately, a lot of funding is, we get a lot of our funding from foundation support, which is wonderful. But really going to brands that they see the value of public television, I think is shifting now because of COVID, that people really value that educational aspect. It's not just, what are these like crazy eyeballs, but are people actually being impacted by the content? And then aside from that, what's also empowering is now that I have established myself, I'm getting phone calls from third-party production companies saying, hey, we want to work with you to bring your show to a bigger platform. And I'm willing to have those conversations, and I have those conversations. But again, with the caveat of, this is my show, this is my voice. We can up the production, but we're not changing the show, right? We're not changing the message of the show. And I have my platform of public television to use, that I don't need these people to make my show. I'm making my show already. So it's really quite empowering to be an independent producer and be able to have that conversation with other executives, with other sponsors, to say, this is what I have. I can show you exactly how it's impacting people. I'm proud of this. And if you want to jump on board, great. And if not, see you later. So that's been wonderful. But I do see public television is obviously going more digital. They have their PBS player. They have their membership based. Of course, PBS is always driven by membership. So that's a bit of a sort of a firewall to get to the content. But I love giving my content for free, since I want this to be as accessible as possible. Again, Amazon Prime, but who knows where digital distribution will be in 5 years as well. 5 years ago, Disney Plus didn't exist. Hulu wasn't where it was. Amazon Prime, wasn't where it was. Netflix wasn't where it was. So I think the evolution of it is just keeping in mind what's happening with the industry and how can our content stay on par with the industry. I haven't started a TikTok account. I'm not a big YouTuber account. Those demographics, those viewers are, 12 to 22-year-olds. My demographic is 35 to 55-year-olds. Granted, we have younger viewers, but it's really, okay, how are these viewers consuming content? Where are they consuming content? How can we bring more content to them? And that's where I'm driven by next steps for my business, is wherever I see that those viewers are consuming content, we need to be there. And how do we create content there? So that's why Condé Nast Traveler is an option, Condé Nast Entertainment, working with a big media company that's investing in a lot of video. You know, and I think for any independent producer or anyone who wants to create content, that's where you have to think about is who is your audience and where are they consuming content. So that may not necessarily mean you want to be on TV. It may not necessarily mean you have to be on a big media company. Maybe you're making short form videos and short form series. You know, I'll be honest, you know, Quibi was going to have had a lot of momentum pre-COVID because it was short form and people didn't have a lot of time. Now people have all the time in the world. And honestly, I haven't heard much about Quibi since then. They've invested a lot in celebrity-driven content. But who knows, maybe once we get through COVID, that will be the thing again, where people only want 9-minute segments of content. But you really just have to be malleable with what's happening in the industry to be able to get your content to your audience. That's the biggest goal. Yeah.
Joanne, any predictions or thoughts about the future?
Well, I was talking about my own future, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with Mickela said, but no, I just want to continue to do television, and I love the creative medium, and luckily I have great sponsors, and I will definitely continue to do television in the future. Not just this 13th show. I will continue beyond that.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up with one last question, which is about when we can travel again. Where do you want to go? I'm sure what is first on your list of where you want to go and why?
I want to go have brunch with my girlfriends in the East Village with the,
right.
I want a little bit of normalcy. That's what I want.
Right. Me too. You know, and that's a tough question for me. I cannot limit it to one place. Honestly, I probably could tell you, you know, 3 or my top 10 or something, but yeah, I don't.
Do you have a top 3? I mean, I know I had trips that I was planning this year that got canceled. And so part of the excitement of travel is always the planning phase when you're doing the research and all the possibilities. And, you know, it's a terrible thing to be planning a trip and then have it get canceled because your mind is still thinking about all those things and that you want to do and that you can't do. So are there trips that you canceled that you're looking forward, or what are the top 3? Are there 3 places that you just really want to reconnect with in person?
I have to tell you, it would be all of them. I mean, I think about it all the time. I think about Sicily. I spent a lot of time in Sicily. You know, most of my travel, which is really crazy, is definitely my work. It's funny that my husband will come along with me like on a tour, and he'll say at the end, well, I've got to go back to work. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, we're on vacation now. Because for me, you know, those trips, I love them. I absolutely love them. And so I would say Sicily, top of my list right now. Sicily, I'm going to say more than that, 3. Rioja in Spain. I spend a lot of time there too, and I love it. And I love Morocco. I've been so many times, and it's the friends that I miss too. You know, it's not just the classes that I do. I have so many friends in all of these locations because I've done them so much. I want to go back to the island of Syros in Greece, the most beautiful town of Ermoupoli, and beautiful, beautiful architecture, and the food's fantastic. And I just want to reconnect with just the places that I go. And if, you know, go on my trips. Isn't that weird? I mean, I want to go to Mallorca. I have not been to Mallorca, so I'm excited. I mean, half of these trips that I plan seriously are because I want to go there. And so Mallorca, I want to spend more time in Portugal. That's another location that I'm just opening up, Portugal. Yeah, hey, I would go anywhere right now. I'm serious. I really would. Put me on a flight. No, I'm not going to do one of those flights that you get on and then you get off in the same place that people are doing. That just doesn't appeal to me. I don't get that. The travel, honestly, I don't care about the planes. I really don't care about the flight part of it. I really just like to be there. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, before I again, like, I just want to go have a brunch without a mask with my girlfriends and my best friends. That's really, but there's one question I want to answer really quickly that it says, from Taste TV, it says, do you have any advice or warnings for young filmmakers and producers based on your own experience? I just want to leave this one thing is listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. If you really believe in the story that you want to tell, figure out how to make it happen, because it's going to be a really tough journey, but I cannot tell you the amount of joy and pride and the amount of people I've connected with in the world because I didn't listen to everybody who was telling me that I was insane to do this project and follow this project. So if you really, 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 truly deep down believe in the stories you want to tell, figure out how to make it happen. It is so worth it. That's all I wanted to end with, because I think that's super important.
No, I do too. And I also think you can do it. I really believe that you can do it. And if you put your mind to it, you can get there. And yes, there are a lot of steps that you have to go through, but I believe you can do it. Yeah. And look at us. Take us, for example.
Well, thank you so much.
Actually, I'm very happy to answer anybody's, if people have questions on how to, I'm happy to give, I can't tell you how many people have come to me. I've got a great idea for a TV show. And I talk about the realities of it, but I also think it is doable. It is, but it's work. It is work.
Well, thank you for your transparency, your honesty, and for sharing all sides of what you do. This has been a great session, and we'll see you on your shows.
Amy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. You did a great job, Amy. Thank you.
You guys are terrific. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye, Joanne. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Mickela.
Ciao.
See
Ciao.
you on the road.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, we got to see a collaboration between the two of you.
Let's do it.
Dancing.
No, she's much better at belly dancing than I am. I saw that.